Have you ever wondered when exactly you stop dressing for the invisible scoreboard and finally start dressing for yourself? You stare at a closet once stuffed with heavy logos and fast trends, realizing none of it actually feels like you. It was never about comfort or style. It was just a costume. A very expensive, exhausting costume. Not because you ran out of money. Not because you gave up. But because you discovered a different game entirely. You think wealth is about showing everyone you have made it. But the truly wealthy follow 7 silent rules of the wardrobe. And I promise you, rule number 5 is going to completely change how you look at a price tag forever. 3 years ago, you felt the crushing pressure to buy the latest designer piece just to look successful in the corporate office. You swiped your card for things you didn't even like, just to borrow the halo effect of a luxury brand name. You look at your coworker Chloe. She just walked in with a brand new, oversized designer handbag that screams money. Everyone praises her. But you notice the dark, heavy shadow of credit card debt quietly clinging to her shoulder. The shiny logo on the bag is incredibly loud, but the financial stress hiding right behind it is absolutely deafening. Do you know what real financial power actually looks like when you no longer need to fake it for strangers? It is wearing a plain, high-quality sweater. Not to prove your worth, but because you already know exactly what your time is worth. You don't need a billboard on your chest when your bank account speaks for itself in absolute silence. You think that is just about saving cash. But this quiet shift leads directly to the second rule of the stealth wealth wardrobe. You watch a colleague strategically place their phone and a heavily branded jacket right in the center of the meeting table. They are spending vastly more energy making sure the designer logo is visible than preparing for the actual presentation itself. You think buying luxury gives you an automatic seat at the big table, but it usually just buys you endless anxiety. You used to play this exact same exhausting game trapped in what economists call the Veblen effect. Buying things not because they work better, not because they last longer, but simply because they are wildly expensive. It is a desperate plea for respect. A heavy, invisible armor made entirely of fragile brand names. 5 years ago, you would have felt completely intimidated sitting next to them in your plain sweater. Now you just feel relief. You realize that rule number 2 of stealth wealth is simple, true financial power deflects attention. It never begs for it. The complete absence of a logo actually becomes a shield. It filters out the people who only value you for your apparent net worth. You sit back, perfectly comfortable, knowing your hidden emergency fund has more zeros than the price tag on their flashy jacket. No stress, no performing for strangers, just the absolute peace of being entirely unbothered. Because when you no longer need to borrow a brand's reputation, you finally start building your own solid foundation. Respect is never bought at a luxury boutique. It is always earned in absolute, unshakable silence. You do not want to look rich anymore. You just want to be completely and utterly free. Which brings you to rule number 3. Once you stop dressing for social approval, you start dressing for something far more valuable: time. 5 years ago, your mornings always started with a silent, exhausting battle against a massive mountain of expensive fabric. You would lose at least 30 precious minutes just staring at crowded hangers, feeling completely drained before sending a single work email. Psychologists call this invisible drain decision fatigue. Every single small choice you make early in the morning quietly depletes your daily mental battery. You see this perfectly in Chloe. She arrives at the office late again, frantically complaining that she has absolutely nothing to wear. Her massive closet is completely stuffed with seasonal trends and loud logos. But the daily anxiety of projecting the right image eats her morning alive. Then you look at your own minimalist wardrobe. You now see exactly 5 identical, high-quality beige sweaters hanging in perfect, quiet alignment. Not because you lack imagination. Not because you hate fashion, but because your brain power is strictly reserved for things that actually matter. Choosing what to wear each morning now takes exactly 3 seconds. No stress, no trying on outfits, and absolutely no mirror anxiety. You are no longer trading your valuable mental energy for cheap social currency. Instead, you are systematically buying back your own time. You confidently wear the exact same understated uniform to a heavy Monday board meeting as you did to a casual Friday strategy review. Some superficial coworkers might whisper behind your back that you are wearing the exact same thing again, wondering if you are struggling. You hear the whispers, but you just let them talk. You simply do not care about their invisible scoreboard anymore. Because while they spend an exhausting hour color coordinating a designer outfit, you are analyzing a quarterly report or just enjoying a peaceful coffee. You realize the ultimate financial luxury is never a massive walk-in closet. True luxury is having complete, unbothered control over your own morning. And once you successfully reclaim that daily time, you naturally stumble into rule number 4 of the Stealth Wealth Wardrobe. Remember that question from the very beginning? When do you finally stop dressing for the invisible scoreboard? You think it happens when you finally have enough money to buy luxury? But it actually happens when you realize what luxury truly costs. You look at an abstract designer advertisement on your screen. The price tag is staggering, designed entirely to project status to complete strangers. In finance, there is a harsh truth called opportunity cost. Every dollar spent to look rich is a dollar stolen from your actual freedom. You calmly close the tab. You have completely lost the desire to trade your life energy for heavily branded pieces of fabric. Suddenly, you hear Chloe aggressively complaining. She is exhausted, talking about how much she absolutely hates her current job and her demanding boss. Yet as she complains, you notice she is wearing brand new, wildly expensive designer shoes she bought just to impress the entire office. She doesn't realize her flashy wardrobe has slowly transformed into a very beautiful, very heavy pair of invisible golden handcuffs. She can never quit. She can never take a break. Her incredibly expensive closet forces her to keep working a job that drains her. Then you look down at your own plain, unmarked beige sweater. It is quiet. It is incredibly comfortable. Not because of the soft fabric, but because it represents 6 months of living expenses safely tucked away in an investment portfolio. You have quietly built a solid financial runway. If this company closed down tomorrow, your world would not collapse into absolute panic. Which brings us to rule number 4. Stealth wealth means dressing in a way that allows you to walk away from any table. You are no longer buying luxury outfits to desperately prove that you belong in the room. Instead, you are quietly buying the ultimate invisible luxury. You are buying the absolute power to say no. A frayed collar, a loose thread, a cheap, trendy sweater that loses its shape and falls apart after just 3 simple washes. You used to buy stacks of cheap clothes, believing you were saving cash while quietly fighting against rising prices and inflation. But every few months you had to replace them. It was a silent, endless cycle of throwing money directly into the trash. The financial drain of buying cheap things twice is actually one of the heaviest invisible taxes on the working middle class. You thought you were being incredibly frugal, but you were just continuously funding the profit margins of the fast fashion industry. Which brings us directly to rule number 5 of the Stealth Wealth Wardrobe. The quiet, ruthless mathematics of true value. Old money does not look at the initial price tag. They look at a financial concept called cost per wear. A $50 trendy jacket that you only wear 5 times ends up costing you a staggering $10 for every single wear. But a $500 classic coat that you wear for 10 straight years, it eventually costs you mere pennies over its lifetime. You are no longer just buying random clothes. You are deliberately acquiring durable, long-term assets that protect your net worth. When you invest in absolute quality, you completely stop replacing things. The cash you save quietly compounds in your investment accounts. You no longer feel helpless against rising prices, because your minimalist wardrobe is now practically immune to everyday economic inflation. You start applying this quiet, powerful math to absolutely everything you buy: your furniture, your shoes, and even your daily habits. You feel an overwhelming sense of absolute financial safety. You have built a quiet shield against a world obsessed with cheap consumption. Because true stealth wealth is knowing exactly what things are truly worth long after the rest of the world has forgotten what they cost. You think earning respect in a high-stakes corporate environment requires walking in wearing a $1,000 designer suit to prove your worth? But rule number 6 of the Stealth Wealth Wardrobe reveals a very strange, uncomfortable truth about human psychology and social status. Years ago, walking into a room full of heavily branded, loud executives would make you instantly shrink, feeling completely inadequate. You would sit there obsessively pulling at your sleeves, terrified that someone would notice your clothes were not from a luxury boutique. You wrongly assumed that their highly visible luxury directly equaled competence, and your absolute lack of it meant you didn't belong. You see Chloe doing this exact thing today. She walks into the boardroom aggressively flashing her massive logo bag to demand immediate attention. She is overcompensating with expensive items because she desperately needs external validation from senior directors just to feel completed secure. Sociologists call this exhaustion social comparison, measuring your entire self-worth by the visible price tags of the people sitting next to you. The dark shadow of debt on her shoulder grows heavier as she frantically tries to keep up with an imaginary corporate scoreboard. Then, the moment happens. The senior director completely ignores her loud, flashy display and turns to look directly across the table at you. You are sitting there perfectly calm in your simple, unbranded beige sweater, completely relaxed, without a single luxury logo in sight. The entire room goes quiet. They do not ask about your watch or your bag. They ask for your sharp, professional opinion. You suddenly realize that when you strip away the loud distractions, people are completely forced to judge you purely on your substance. The ultimate luxury is not wearing a status symbol. The ultimate luxury is becoming one. You speak calmly, commanding the room with a quiet, undeniable authority that no platinum credit card in the world could ever buy. Later that week, you walk into a highly exclusive, upscale restaurant. The exact kind of place where everyone is actively scanning the room. You immediately feel the heavy, judgmental eyes of strangers. They look at your plain clothing, silently attempting to calculate your net worth. Years ago, this exact scenario would have completely ruined your evening. You would have bought an expensive outfit just to feel safe. But today you walk to your table with a slow, relaxed confidence that completely confuses the superficial crowd desperately seeking attention around you. You sit down, completely unbothered. You realize that true luxury is not having to constantly prove you can afford the menu. They speak loudly, making sure every single person in the dining room knows exactly how much money they are spending tonight. You watch them with a gentle smile. You recognize that exhausting performance because you used to play a very similar version of it. But stealth wealth teaches you a brilliant secret. When you finally stop performing for strangers, you start experiencing the actual moment. You order a simple, high-quality meal. You do not take a single photo for social media. You do not check your phone once. The staff treats you with a deep, quiet respect. Not because you look aggressively wealthy, but because you exude absolute, unshakable peace. Meanwhile, the loud patron is far too busy arguing about the wine vintage and taking endless photos to actually enjoy their expensive dinner. They are paying hundreds of dollars strictly for the illusion of status. They are buying an audience, not an experience. But you are paying for the actual private joy of a beautifully cooked meal. You are fully experiencing the wealth you have built. It is the ultimate freedom. The quiet freedom to simply exist in a beautiful space without owing anyone a performance. Which brings us to the 7th and final rule of the Stealth Wealth Wardrobe. The absolute power of invisibility. When most people finally hit a major financial milestone, their first instinct is to immediately upgrade their entire visible lifestyle. They buy the flashier wardrobe and the heavy designer accessories, absolutely terrified of looking like they are falling behind their peers. Financial experts call this trap lifestyle inflation, a quiet phenomenon that keeps high-income earners living stressful paycheck-to-paycheck lives. You watch people voluntarily step right into this golden cage, trading their newfound wealth for heavy, exhausting social expectations. You see this exact breaking point in Chloe. Late one evening, her confident, flashy facade completely and utterly shatters. She sits alone at her office desk, looking completely exhausted, staring blankly at a towering pile of credit card statements. Her massive designer bag sits abandoned on the floor, looking entirely useless next to the crushing reality of a high-interest balance. She is trapped in a relentless cycle, buying wildly expensive things to impress people she doesn't even actually like. The dark shadow of debt on her shoulder is no longer just a whisper. It dictates every single choice she makes. Meanwhile, you are quietly using your plain wardrobe to build something far more valuable than any seasonal luxury trend. You are secretly accumulating what the financial world quietly refers to as FU money. The ultimate invisible defensive moat. It is having enough hidden liquid assets to walk away from any toxic job, bad manager, or highly stressful situation. You realize you never need a loud outfit to feel secure when you literally hold the keys to your own freedom. Your plain beige sweater is no longer just a piece of clothing. It is a highly intentional camouflage for absolute independence. For years, you watched peers buy flashy cars and luxury watches, constantly feeling a quiet, anxious sting of falling behind. You thought you were losing. You felt a massive pressure to upgrade your wardrobe just to keep pace with the pack. But then you look closely at the pack. You see Chloe sprinting endlessly on an invisible, exhausting corporate treadmill. You think winning the money game means finally getting to the front of the pack? But the truth is entirely different. Winning actually means realizing that the track is a circle and you have the absolute power to just stop running. You take a deliberate step back. You completely remove yourself from the exhausting competition of who looks the most successful. Not because you gave up, not because you lost the game, but because you bought your own freedom instead of their approval. Your plain beige sweater becomes the ultimate symbol of this rebellion. It is the quiet uniform of someone who stopped running. Every single dollar you didn't spend on a designer logo went directly into building an unshakable wall of financial independence. You no longer have to pretend. You no longer have to perform. You are finally, truly, and completely free. Have you ever wondered what absolute, unbreakable peace actually feels like on a perfectly normal Tuesday morning? It feels like walking into any room wearing the simplest clothes and not needing a single person to validate your existence. The invisible scoreboard that used to dictate your entire life has completely vanished, leaving only silence and profound clarity. You leave the office. The loud, flashy world continues to spin all around you, but it can no longer touch you. You head back home, realizing that this profound financial shift all started with one single, quiet choice in front of a mirror. You stand once again in front of your quiet, minimalist closet, looking at those same few high-quality pieces of plain fabric. There are no flashy logos to hide behind here. No heavy armor made of expensive brands to quietly protect your ego. But as you look in the mirror, you realize you have never felt more powerful or secure in your entire life. You think about Chloe, still endlessly running on that exhausting corporate treadmill, drowning in debt just to look the part. You do not judge her. You just feel a profound, overwhelming sense of relief that you chose to quietly step away. Because the absolute greatest secret of the old money wardrobe is that it was never really about the clothes at all. So when exactly do you stop dressing for the invisible scoreboard and finally start dressing for your own true self? It happens the exact moment you realize that the social scoreboard never actually existed in the very first place. The only person keeping score was you. And you just decided to stop playing a game you didn't even like. You dress for time. You dress for peace. You dress to protect the invisible wealth that gives you absolute freedom. Let the rest of the world scream desperately for attention. You are perfectly, beautifully content with absolute silence. Because when you are truly, deeply wealthy, you never have to say a single word. Your life your time, and your quiet wardrobe have already spoken volumes for you. The characters and stories in this video are fictional and created for illustrative purposes, based on common financial situations, not real individuals. The content in this video is for entertainment and illustrative purposes about money psychology and is not investment or personal financial advice. Please do your own research or consult a licensed financial professional before making decisions.